This is the first episode of New Scripts on the Block. Consider this one big writers group, and you're invited. This podcast is about the art of screenwriting and writing for short films. This series dives into the minds of writers at all stages of their career to share their creative ideas, give and receive feedback on their work or the works of others. The goal is to open up a discussion about writing and share new and creative methods or approaches with one another to help each other grow. All right, this is the first episode of New Scripts on the Block. We are featuring an amazingly talented individual. Ray Huffman comes from acting, transitioning into screenwriting or writing.
Right.
And he actually brought us a short story today about a real life paranormal, like
encounter.
Supernatural
encounter.
Yeah. So, Ray, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you come from.
Yeah, that'd be great. I originally from back east, and I got my start in acting back there in Philly, and then I got a part in 12 Monkeys with Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt back in Philly, but we shot it in Baltimore.
Okay.
Because they had a convention coming in, and then they had to move down to there. So I got my SAG card, and then I moved to LA. And from there, then I just did everything you can think of, So I'm on IMDb, so they can look me up there if they need to see any of the movies and stuff like that.
So Ray Huffman on IMDb.
Right.
Okay.
And so I take what I learned in acting, seeing visual in my mind, and that I figured I could write into scripts.
Yeah.
Well, actually, books. Short stories or books. I'm working on a few.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so this is my first time, having one done with your help. Thank you.
Actually.
Yes, actually.
So Alyssa Eshelman, that's me. I helped Ray adapt his short story into a short screenplay. So today we'll have the opportunity to read both the short story to see what the original content was, and then afterward we'll go ahead and read through the script together so that you folks can get an understanding of what that adaptation process looks like and kind of the differences between the two and how they're visually expressed. We're also honored to be joined today with Ashley Hakes, a member of the team at Arizona Studios. Say hi, Ashley.
Hello.
Ashley, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do at Arizona Studios? And
I don't think there's enough time
say
for
everything.
How much I do here. Other than I am an animator here at the studio, and I also help edit. I also help with audio. And anything else that needs to be done.
Really spectacular at all of them. So.
Great.
Stop.
Yes.
So happy to be here.
Yay, we're happy to have you.
Yes. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and get into some guidelines for the podcast before we start rolling. This is really just so listeners can get the idea of what our goals are here and help the people who are joining us on the podcast understand kind of our rules and priorities. We're laughing because I've got a water bottle next to me and I'm desperately wanting to drink it, so forgive me.
Go ahead. Yes. Ice ASMR.
Yeah, it's just a little ASMR for everybody listening. That's good. I like that. Maybe we should transition into, that'll be our second podcast series. Will be a Arizona Studios ASMR. Would you come back in for that, Ray?
It'll be like gaff tape.
You're just pulling, anything film-related sounds.
Wrapping cables.
Putting a sandbag down, and a sploosh of sand.
Do you have the coconut things too for the horse?
Oh, no, but we can get some.
We can get
okay.
those,
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
The reason I say that is because when I was acting in LA, one of my jobs was I worked at the Hollywood Entertainment Museum. So we had a sound room from the old days. And they had
Wow.
all those different things
Like an
they
old
used to make
Foley type
noises.
place.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so cool.
Yeah,
That's
how they
cool.
made the wind and how they made the thunder, you know, and all that thing.
It's just a sheet metal.
So this
Yeah.
was a museum you worked at. So
Yeah.
did people come in and tour and like they
Right.
show them those things, or?
Yeah, they showed them that. We had a green screen. We had a lot of props from different movies that were just sitting in there.
That's cool.
Yep, we had the Starship part of the, I think, Enterprise, but I forgot which one it was, with the British guy. I forgot what his name is.
Sir Patrick Stewart.
Stewart.
Sir Patrick Stewart.
yes.
Hey, he is knighted. you know?
Yeah. So we had that, and we had a cyborg there, full, and it was enclosed
Oh,
and stuff, and the music played all the time. So
nice.
every time I hear
I
that,
mean, that would
Star
be a
Trek,
little like drive you crazy, but
yeah, yeah. And then we had the cheer set, you know, was
oh,
there.
cool, very cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was cool. It was like a nice little tour.
I would
that
love
we
to
came
hang
through
out
there.
in the Cheers set.
Yeah, I did.
I feel at home.
Yeah.
Right.
And so what I did was I took the cheer set, and we had the green screen, so I just took pictures of me different positions,
Yeah.
and I placed myself all over the cheer set.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
That
We're
would
gonna
be
make
fun.
sure that when we convert this into a blog post, we'll have to track down those photos from you and put them in there
Yeah,
so
that'd be
people
cool.
can appreciate that.
Sure, the museum's no longer there, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the memories
Bummer.
are still
memories
with you.
are still there, yeah.
That's good.
And then, you know, they had little kids that came through and everything too. So
Cool.
That's cool.
yep.
All right, now I'm going to get into the rules before we start reading. I know. I'd love, Ray, to spend the next half hour of just listening to you tell us stories about the wonders
Right.
of your life.
Thank you.
And
But
we're going to get into one of the wonders of your life, which is pretty crazy. So
Right.
I'm excited to get to there. So real quick, just covering some of the basic rules. Any comments, critiques that we give one another are just for the benefit of our growth and learning and becoming better writers. Nobody's here to disregard anyone's artistic work or criticize anyone. Everything that we talk about on this podcast, it's take it or leave it. Any feedback that we give or receive on writing we've done or that someone else is presenting, our hope is that everyone will just be open-minded and know that you could take it or leave it, and none of us will be offended if you choose to leave it. So, great. Let me see if I'm missing anything else real quick. Sorry, guys. The other expectation we have is for writers to just take this opportunity to also express to us what they feel good about and what are things that maybe they're not feeling as confident in. Say, I think this character may be falling kind of flat. What could I do? Da da da. Anything that you think is important that would help you kind of get this piece to where you want it to be. Cool. Anybody got any questions or other add-ins before we start going?
yeah, can I chew gum?
Can you chew gum during a podcast?
No,
No, that's for the
our
ASMR.
That's for our
You gotta
ASMR.
save it, Ray.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's a different episode.
That's the next episode.
Okay.
Next time on New Script on the Blog.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ray, we've asked you to go ahead and
Okay.
just briefly, if you could start by giving us a minor summary, just
Okay.
what the premise of the story is,
Sure.
real quick, and then we'll have you go ahead and do the voice for the short story itself.
Right. Okay, great. So the premise of the whole thing is an encounter I had. It was based on true story. Driving home at night after delivering down in Douglas and having to take a detour because of flooding and stuff like that down we have here in Arizona in Tucson, you know, during the monsoon season. So I took Dragoon Road, and then I encountered something I've never seen before and can never find, as much as I've done research and everything on internet and things. So this has been haunting me. This might be a release of what has been in my mind, you know, for this. And I don't know what's going to happen after this, but, you know, I'm willing.
That's ominous.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So this is based on my visual on what happened and writing it down, and yeah, so that's what this is.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it, and we hope that you find it to be a therapeutic experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and, Ray, whenever you're ready, if you
Sure.
want to pick it up from the top of your short story.
Sure. Okay, what I wrote down was the glowing object encounter. So here we go. On a dark, rainy night in late October 2018, after making my last delivery as an independent courier in Douglas, Arizona, I drove my black 2016 Chevy Cruze towards home. I drove my car north on Route 191 towards Davis Road. As I moved into the left-hand turn lane for Davis Road, I noticed that barricades were up. From time to time, Davis Road would be flooded, and barricades would then have to be placed to close off all vehicles to traffic. So I continued driving north on Highway 191 towards the next road that would take me to the I-10 West entrance ramp on Dragoon Road. I continued on driving while trying to look in between the wiper blades swishing and the rain continuing its pelting down on my front windshield glass. From afar, I could see the Dragoon's power plant coming into view. There it was, standing out of place with its large, tall, tan, circular stacks. Its behemoth stacks protruded upwards from the ground, looking eerily like a fire-breathing dragon, billowing clouds large, steam hot into the moist night air. Seeing them from afar made me know that I was getting closer to Dragoon Road. Finally, the large green road sign that read Dragoon Road came into my view. I drove into the left turning lane and then on to Dragoon Road. Now all that I was really worried about was a possibility that this windy, hilly, 2-lane paved country road wasn't flooded as well. This 2-lane country road took me through groves of trees and planted fields which lined either side of it. I continued driving in the rain that had slowed down a bit, as my eyes continued to look forward of my car headlights for any flooded parts of the road. As I drove further down the dark, wet, paved road, the landscape began to change. Looking out through the right side of my car's closed window, as my car came around the bend, I could see a deep ravine covered with various heights of overgrown weeds. Sometimes while driving in this dark section of road, I could see the bright headlight of an Amtrak passenger train running along the tracks at the bottom of the ravine. However, not tonight. Out of the corner of my eyes, I noticed something glowing bright white and floating up the ravine. As it made its ascension towards the edge of the road, my mind tried to register what was happening. It wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before. The area around was pitch dark with no homes or lights around the ravine. Made that glowing white object look like even more ominous to me. As I stared at this white glowing object, I observed that it was eerily floating and bobbing along, not even touching any of the 4-foot-high weeds as it moved above them. Its shape consisted of 2 perfect rounded circles, with each of the circles being about the size of my car's 16-inch wheels. This glowing object was milky white in color, but flat-sided like a pancake. Each one of the circles were connected to each other by only a foot near the center. And in the center of each of the glowing circles was a smaller 6-inch round circle. My eyes could see right through those center circles at the darkness behind it, as they continued to bounce up in the air. To me, that glowing object looked like bug eyes that you would see in an animation film. As that large, double-rounded, glowing milky white colored, flat-sided object bobbed and floated its way eerily closer to the road's edge, my heart raced and my body started to shiver. My mind was trying to still register what this glowing thing was that was coming closer and closer to my car and me. This object was moving too close to my right side's car's doors. That was close enough for me. My mind flight instinct immediately kicked in at the very moment. It was telling me that I needed to get away quickly. Was it the fact that I didn't know what the glowing object was, or where it had come from, or if it could hurt or kill me, or would it try to even kidnap me? Well, I wasn't waiting around to find out. My foot pressed down hard on the gas pedal, while my hands wrapped tightly around the steering wheel. The car sped up as fast as it could to go, trying to get away far enough from that glowing object, while I looked to see in the mirror to see what was following me. When I felt that I was far enough away, I pulled the car over to the side of the road and put it in park. My body was shivering uncontrollably as my mind was trying to absorb what it was that I had just witnessed. I slowly removed my hands from the steering wheel and noticed that my fingernails had made tiny indents into the rubber casing. As I sat in the car for about 10 minutes, I regained my part of senses, which then realized where I was at and what had just happened. Still in a state of shock and confusion, I placed my left hand back onto the steering wheel and grabbed the automatic shifter with the other. I put the car in the drive and back onto the wet pavement, heading towards the town of Dragoon, and then onto the I-10 West entrance ramp. I was feeling like I was back to civilization where I finally saw the ramp sign. With my eerie encounter still haunting my memory, I drove my Chevy Cruze back towards Tucson, Arizona.
Wow. That was definitely a creepy story. So, thanks so much again, Ray, for sharing that with us.
You're
really
welcome.
Appreciate it. I know this was a real experience that you
Right.
had in life, so I can
Yeah.
imagine that it's not something that's entirely comfortable to talk about all the time.
Right. But like, it's definitely a release though. That's for sure.
That's good. Have you talked to, did you ever talk to anyone else, or anyone else maybe in the, I know there's a big community of people who are very much involved in investigating for
really?
alien life here in Arizona.
Oh,
So,
no, I didn't know about that.
yeah, I mean, I think Arizona is one of the states with the most commonalities of alien sightings,
Really?
right? I believe
so.
we're pretty up there. I think
Wow.
it's mostly us in Nevada.
Or if you're going to in September, if you're going up to Area 51.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If everybody
Yeah,
was
everybody's
heading to
going for
Area
the-
51.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they might see some aliens.
Oh, it's the Phoenix Lights. That's what people, some people think that it is some sort of alien thing instead of it being a,
Yeah.
what is it? Like an army kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, like some sort of military.
Yeah.
Oh,
there you
from
go.
or
the
something.
Air Force Base?
Yeah,
Maybe,
people
yeah.
think, because there's lights that will line up
Mm-hmm.
and they'll just they'll come up at certain, I don't know, it's just, if you Google
Yeah.
Phoenix Lights, there are
Well,
a
wasn't
lot
there?
of things.
There was also a movie that came out.
I
an
believe so,
independent
yeah.
film that came out a year or two ago.
Oh, really?
That was about
the Phoenix Lights.
About the Phoenix Lights, about a group of kids that had a weird encounter or something like that.
Yeah.
That revolved around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's people here.
So
that-
you're not alone, Ray.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I don't need the Department of Defense knocking on my door.
For sure.
All right, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you telling that story. What we're going to do now is just take a brief break.
Okay.
And then we'll get into reading the script adaptation so that we can compare and contrast the two and talk a little bit about what makes them different and what makes them the same.
Cool.
This podcast is brought to you by Arizona Studios. Arizona Studios, a full-service video content specialist. We're here to illuminate your message and compel your audience to take the right action. For more information, head to our website at arizonastudios.com and be sure to tune in for more content on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. So we're back with Ray, and now we're going to pick up from where we left off, heading into the script adaptation of the short story that he just read for us. So you will definitely notice a difference in the way that this is read. We are going to be reading everything, including all of the action directions, any specific locations listed, and things like that. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and get us started. The script is called Encounter. Screen adaptation is by myself, Alyssa Eshelman, and the original short story by Ray Huffman.
Great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
External small business night. Sound effects. Thunder strikes. Text. Douglas, Arizona, October 2018.
Rain drizzles down on the city as a courier stumbles into his black 2016 Chevy Cruze.
Internal Chevy Cruze continuous.
He brushes the moisture off his stubble-ridden face and shifts his car into gear.
External highway moments later.
The car trucks along Route 191.
Internal Chevy Cruze continuous.
The windshield wipers violently swipe back and forth with little effect. A A small memento rests on the dash. Through the downpour, the courier spies the sign indicating an upcoming off-ramp for Dragoon Road. From the road, he passes the faint lights of the Dragoon power plant.
External, Dragoon power plant, continuous.
The power plant loomed ominously over the deserted stretch of land. Its protruding cylindrical cement features appear behemoth. The top of the building breathes out like a heavy white steam into the moist night air. Like a dragon, the rumble of the plant has a faint roar to it.
Internal, Chevy Cruze, continuous.
The courier's hand shifts the blinker on as he approaches the Dragoon Road exit. The remainder of droplets drip from his wet hair trickling down his cheek.
External, highway, continuous.
We see the vehicle make its exit.
Exterior, rural road, continuous.
The two-lane paved country road is dark, desolate.
Internal, Chevy Cruze, continuous.
The driver squints slightly, focused on his ears as we hear his fear.
Sound effects, the sound of rain and monstrous winds grows louder.
The sound goes back to normal as the driver reaches his hand out and turns on the radio. A quaint country tune plays on.
External, rural road, continuous.
He drives on, passing through groves of trees and plant fields as the music drowns out the settling storm.
Internal, Chevy Cruze, continuous.
Further now, the courier hums along the tune. He looks out at his passenger side window as he passes a ravine.
External, ravine, continuous.
The ravine is riddled with overgrown weeds that wisp in the cool breeze. The rain has lightened up a bit. A set of abandoned train tracks glisten in the light of the moon as the clouds part. The glow grows brighter, abnormally so.
Internal, Chevy Cruze, continuous.
From inside the car, the beam of this unknown light flickers in. The courier looks out on the ravine to see a light in the night sky slowly ascending towards the edge of the road. Everything becomes eerily silent, and the music slows.
External, rural road, continuous.
The car's brake lights beam as it rolls down almost to a stop.
Internal, Chevy Cruze, continuous.
The driver looks out upon the light as its shape becomes more clear. The two circles, roughly the size of tires, glowing a bright light, hover just above the weeds of the ravine. Coming into focus, the glow fades slightly to reveal darker circles, smaller, inside of the tube from before. The unknown object seemed to bob as it simply trotted through the weeds, its approach closer to the vehicle. The driver, frozen, drips a single droplet of water from his hair. The light appears closer than before. His hands clasp the steering wheel. The rumble of the engine is faint, but it calls to him, "Go."
External, rural road, continuous.
The objects is feet away.
Oof, my grammar withstand.
I just made it up. Well, that's what we're here for.
Feel free to correct
right? Was that noticeable? Man. The object is feet away from me, leaning forward as if reaching out.
I would do it one more time, and here's the reason why.
Okay.
The object is feet away from me. Nothing is first person.
Okay, object is feet away from. Okay. That's, yeah, let me just get rid of the S at the end. That's, I think, what's
Feel
screwing
free
it up.
to
Okay,
correct
thank
that.
you. All righty.
Do you want a pen?
Yeah, thanks.
Scribble that.
Yeah, so I don't say it again?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just put a period in there.
The object.
Yeah.
Feet away.
Feet away. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. The object is feet away, leaning forward as if reaching out.
Internal, Chevy Cruze, continuous.
The music speeds up to normal. The engine roars. His foot hits the gas. His grip on the wheel fastens. Looking forward, he breathes heavily with frantic eyes. His eyes dart to the rearview mirror. The lights grow smaller.
External, rural road, continuous.
The car blazes down the road, barreling faster than before his trip began.
Internal, Chevy Cruze, moments later.
The driver appears weary, his breath finally slowing down and his eyelids drooping. He looks to the rearview mirror to find only nothingness behind him.
External, rural road, continuous.
The brake lights flash on as the car slows to a stop, rolling off to the side of the road.
Internal, Chevy Cruze, continuous.
He puts the car in park and leans back into his seat with a sigh of relief. The music grows louder.
External, rural road, continuous.
A sign not far from the vehicle reads Tucson, Arizona, with an indication of miles to town. In the distance, the lights of the city are visible. End.
Perfect.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
Great. So now we're going to go ahead and just get into questions, anything that Ashley and I need to help kind of fill in some of the blanks and just better understand you, your experience, and the way you went about writing the original story.
Okay.
Great. Ashley, do you want to start?
I mean, I'm trying to think of like what we talked about earlier today. Because I know we had...
Yeah, we talked smack about people
Oh,
before.
great.
We
I
wanna
thought
make
my
sure we get
ears
it
were
out.
ringing as I was
Yeah,
driving.
on the way here.
What
all
is
the way
that
from
noise?
Tucson. Yeah, you could sense it.
Well, I think the one thing that I was telling Alyssa earlier was that I wish there was a little bit more like... Now I'm thinking about it, of reading your short story first.
It's more.
Yeah, and then reading the screenplay. And now I can see how a lot of people are, when it comes to like bigger budgeted movies, of like, well, that's not how it went in real life. It's like, well, yeah, you have to dramatize it. You have to make people want to watch it.
Yeah.
Which is, it is kind of in the same vein of this, of like, there's a little bit of action, but I wish there was a little bit more. Like, just to,
Well, yeah, and with it, I mean, as you verbally do it, and then as you see it in a movie or something like that, there is the special effects. There is all that going on. There's
Right.
music going on and all that stuff. And as I read it, there's more pause between things going on. So like reaching out for the radio, then you hear the radio turning on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was telling her I could really tweak it, embellish it, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I need to. And it seems like, I could add more of my verbs and things into the storyline
Yeah.
and do that.
Well, the tough thing with screenwriting is that kind of one of the rules of thumb that I think a lot of people are taught is to still be descriptive, but to only describe things that the audience can visibly see.
Right.
Because the script's communicating something that we have to visually make and represent. So a lot of some of the terminology and things that are used in the original story, where you're elaborating on things like emotion or a sense of feeling or whatever, those things aren't always as applicable to transition when you're writing a script, because you can't see it.
Right.
So
and that's where the actor comes in and,
Yeah.
and the director
Yeah.
and say, okay, I need you to do this while you're doing that and while
Yeah.
you're saying that, and it's cut to the car looking out there and my face like looking like I'm scared.
Exactly. Like
There's
his
a lot of
frantic eyes
embellishment
darting.
that goes into and when you read something, it's from a story to an adaptation.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough because it really cuts it down. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you would think like 12 Monkeys would be 3.5 hour movie, it'd be like this, but it's only, the script is only like this big,
Yeah.
Our audience can't see what this big
Oh,
is.
this
Maybe
big is
like
like
maybe like an inch wide. I don't know.
Yeah, like an inch wide, Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
not
you.
that impressive.
Yeah. Here, can you
Different.
see?
Can you see? Are you paying attention at home?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do definitely have some questions,
Sure.
Ray. I'd love to know more about, I guess, just tell us some backstory. Like, you were a courier at the time, what got you there? When it happened, like, what was your immediate reaction? Obviously, you were scared in the moment, but once you kind of passed by that and got home, what happened after that for you?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, first off, I'm always looking because the road bended. You know, as I run around the bend, then it becomes this big ravine, and down at the bottom of the ravine, usually an Amtrak. So I'm looking for the Amtrak light, you know, because I guess as a courier, I'm delivering. That's my last stop of the night. So it's really dark. It's probably like 10:30 at night, and usually an Amtrak comes through, and I look down there. And then what I notice is something coming up the ravine towards me. So I slowed down. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You know, but
You're scary.
Yeah.
Were you concerned you were going to make contact with it? Like,
oh, I don't know. I mean,
okay.
it didn't register yet what it was, like
Yeah.
what's going. And that's probably the biggest thing is that it took a long time. That's why I say as it got close to my car, I finally made the decision, I should say, to drive away. I could have stopped and I guess, you know, took a picture, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It just
In the moment, you
in
just
the
felt
moment,
like this
you just,
isn't right.
Yeah, you know, you got to make that decision, you know, fight or flight. So mine was flight because, you know.
I'm not
you
looking
know,
to fight an
something-
animal.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what
It
the
is
heck
not
it is.
Independence Day yet.
Right.
For sure.
Right, it's an MIB, no. So, yeah, I mean, I had to pull the side of the road and just get my composure before I drove. I mean, I drove far enough away and looking in the rearview mirror. And you got to understand, too, it's raining, you know, it's dark, there's nothing around, and just weird.
It always happens when it's raining.
Yeah.
Always.
So going into writing the story, I guess I'm just curious because I know you were an actor and then you transitioned into, you know, using the visual skills you learned from that to start writing.
Right.
I guess what kind of work led you to that? Like, have you been reading other people who did similar works, or like how did you get the inspiration for the actual written part?
Oh, well, you know, I didn't know, I didn't really put it together, but when I was in school, as a young person, we'd have reading, you know, between the classes and stuff. And then the teacher always asked me to read. I didn't mind. I always read the books. But I read them like that, you know, as far as emphasis on words and, you know, how to do things. And it just, I learned that as a young child. Kept with me, was in the back of my mind, and not really noticing it. But then when I got into acting, seeing scripts and then seeing how things are done, I kind of put the two together.
Okay.
So, and then, you know, as a people watcher, actors are people watchers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're creepy. Yeah.
You mean creepers? Yeah.
So, but, you know, I mean, they a lot of the top-notch actors, they'll study for 6 months, you know, for the role. So, yeah.
So likewise, I guess what I'm curious about is when you started writing this short story, like how did you prepare yourself for the actual writing, or was it really just like, hey, this is just me putting down on paper my exact experience?
No, usually what I do with anything that I write is, and I'm sure a lot of other writers will know this, is that I put it to the side, and I might not touch it for years. With this one, I think it was probably, it wasn't very long, because this happened, I guess it's going on over a year ago. It's not very, you know, it's not long time.
No, I mean, it says 2018,
Yeah,
I think, in the story.
So I stayed off on it, you know, and then I wrote a little bit of it, and then I said, okay, I first wanted to just write down what happened, and I really did. I wrote it on little cue cards, and I wrote what I saw.
Yeah.
I drew, I wrote it
Had
on there.
you talked to anyone about what happened before then?
No.
No.
No, because, I mean, you know, there's people out there that are, you know, there's a lot of skepticism about it, and
Was this something you believed in before it happened to you?
I kind of figure that there is. I have some belief in it, yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because, well, they talk about even things like how the pyramids were made and all that other things like that. Like, you know, how did they go about all the things that have happened all the way up to now?
Yeah.
And how did we advance from, you know, our technology so quick? You know, if you're looking back in time, it took 50 years, 100 years before we got to the next step. And now we're just advancing so fast. So I think there is something out there that's helping or whatever.
Okay, so you were kind of always open to the possibility that there was something out there beyond.
Right. I've never
humanity.
really saw anything before. I mean, I've always read it,
Mm-hmm.
watched TV shows about it and all that stuff. But when it really happens to you, it really affects your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Especially something where you can't really talk to anybody about it without, somebody saying, "Oh, he's a crackpot" or whatever,
Yep.
And
Not even friends, family. You didn't.
no,
talk
I haven't
to
told
anyone?
anybody really.
Wow.
Yeah, this is the first. So.
Exclusive.
Oh
Yeah,
wow!
Heard it here.
Exclusively available on New Scripts on the Block.
Right. And so I wrote it as a short story, so I just embellished the whole thing with the short story.
So we asked some questions. We talked a little bit about your experience and also just kind of who you've talked to and shared this with and
Right.
the emotional state you were in when you wrote this story and how long it took you. Ashley, do you have any other questions about either the events or, Ray's real life experiences?
Oh, well, I mean, about real life experiences, yeah, I have a lot of questions, but
Sure.
So many.
no, I guess the next question is, are you going to, are you going to do like another draft that's going to be a little bit longer, or is it going to be just no, this is it, this is kind of what
from reading it, I can see it needs to be more, and then I'm sure with Alyssa's help, because she's already on board.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Alyssa's on board.
Alyssa's on board.
Alyssa's
So,
on board.
And
She's
then as far
got
as you are
thumbs
too,
up.
right? And,
Yeah.
and so the goal is to make this into kind of the story core I was trying to tell you before about the wagon going around and they go inside and they do this kind of before podcasts were called podcasts.
Yeah.
They did this.
Yeah.
And they would just have sits like this and discuss, like they would have the grandmother, the grandfather tell stories and things like that.
Yeah.
So, so that's why I want to go ahead and just make this maybe into an animation.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be, I think, pretty cool. So something that came up that I think Ashley kind of touched on during the podcast earlier was just the separation between, it's difficult when you're working with true life events because there's obviously wanting to stay true to what really happened, and then there's also the side of it that is from a storyteller's perspective and a screenwriting perspective, where do those lines meet of how much can you embellish and add engagement to the plot, but not
completely
deviate so far from reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is one because it's a single person.
Yeah.
I think a lot would have to do with when you put it together.
Yeah.
And how
Content.
The content exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, the special effects and the visual look of what you're looking at as a storyboard and all that.
Right.
Once all that combines together, then it'll look much better for a one-person thing.
Yeah.
If you're having some other people in it,
Yeah.
then that takes away from that. And that's why kind of like I had you read the other parts.
Yeah.
All those, just to add a little more to the story.
Yeah,
The adaptation and just for the
the
audience.
That is something fun about this piece that I'd say, because you're working with a story that was told first person, then when you're converting it into a screen adaptation, there's only one character through the entire story. It's one of those no dialogue type things, and so it is very visually dependent.
Right.
It really, really is.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. So.
I mean, I liked it. It's funny because I drive that stretch of road quite often.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, so I go back to Texas every couple of years, and so I go through Dragoon a lot.
Oh, wow.
So it's knowing that that's where you were at. It's like I can visually
It's
see
extra
it.
eerie.
Yeah. So it's like, oh
Small
man,
world.
I know exactly like which part.
Of the road I was at,
yeah,
right?
yeah, in a way, like not exactly, but I know the area.
Right.
So
I think there are a lot of visual elements that aren't they don't directly relate to the alien part, but they create the tone that makes it so creepy. Like the descriptions in the short story that I kind of took and then put into the script of the power plant.
Yeah.
I felt like that immediately set the tone of like something being off and
Right.
abnormal and
Right, and the groves and the trees.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
really appreciate you putting all that from the story into
I tried to
adaptation.
keep as much of it as I could because it's important.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is.
Because
yeah.
it's someone's real
Visual.
real life.
Right.
Yep.
Like it needs to feel for you like what you experienced. Yeah.
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 Wow.
All right. Well, I'm excited to
Cool.
see where this goes, and definitely to help out with the next set of notes. We're opening up to you, the audience. Feel free to send us any notes or feedback you have wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or SoundCloud. You can always comment at us there, or you can add us at Arizona Studios on Twitter. And feel free to email us at info@arizonastudios.com. If you have any critique or feedback, we're really open to it. We'd love to share those things with Ray so that he can have the opportunity to watch this piece really grow, expand, and meet his audience well. So, anybody else got anything to add before I cut it off?
No, thank
really
you for
not.
having me here and share my story with the audience and you, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ray.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
coming all the way from Tucson.
Yeah, you're
No
welcome.
kidding. Thank you for taking the trip.
You're welcome.
You take care.
You too. Have a good one.
We appreciate you listening to this first ever episode of New Scripts on the Block.
New
New
script
script, singular. We appreciate you listening to this first ever episode of New Script on the Block. And tune in next time.
Cool.